In lesson 4, I want to talk to you guys about learning the fingerboard and navigating the fretboard, learning your notes, where they are, and how to find them. My own experience with this indicated that it really was quite a weakness for me. And I had learned my scales and my chords, but my scales in particular, I had learned them based on patterns and shapes, rather than learning the intervals that make up the scale and the notes that actually are in the scale. I needed these patterns in order to be able to play them. My first revelation came when I went to audition for the jazz program at Mohawk College. I'd been studying jazz with a guitar teacher for about 6 months when this happened to me. I was asked by the professor to play some scales. I think he asked me to play a G major scale, and I pulled out my 3-note per string pattern. I knew this was a G, and as long as I knew the pattern, I could play the scale. Then he asked me to play a C, and I think I went something like G, G sharp A sharp B, oh, okay, C, and I played the same pattern. I did this because I really didn't know what notes were actually in the G major scale or the C major scale, and I didn't have a solid understanding of the fingerboard. With that in mind, I probably could have done something a lot simpler, and I think this is what the instructor was looking for. I could have taken that G major, which is actually the 4th position of the caged system. We're going to talk about the caged system in an upcoming lesson, but it's something that's going to help you with this. And I could have played my G major scale like this. Okay, so you notice I didn't have to go all the way up the fingerboard to do that. It was all right here under my fingers. And that's kind of the point of this lesson. Next is my C major. I could have done it with this shape. This is an A shape, right? So we have our A chord, we bar it, and we move it up. In the case of that G chord, it was an E shape that we barred and moved up. So that's 2 of the positions of the caged system. C, A, G, E, and D chords are used to do this, both major and minor. So I could have taken this C chord and played my C major scale. Right there under my fingers. I could have also used the open position. I could have done the same for the G major scale. So the point I'm getting at is that it's really important to learn the intervals that make up the scales and chords and how they're constructed, and the note names on the guitar and where to find them so that you can tie all this stuff up together. One of my favorite ways to practice this is to use the circle of fourths or the circle of fifths. In music theory, the circle of fifths is basically, or the circle of fourths, is a diagram that shows the relationship among the 12 tones of the chromatic scale as well as their corresponding relative major and minor scales. It's simply a diagram that's used to help you figure out where the sharps and flats are and what scales are related and so on. It doesn't really matter so much what the circle of fourths is at this point. What matters is that we can use the circle of fourths to help us learn to play the 12 notes of the musical scale anywhere on the fingerboard. In this case, we're going to apply this lesson 1 string at a time. Using the circle of fourths, we can see that if we go counterclockwise from the note B, we get B, E, A, D, G, C, and F. The reason I'm choosing to do it this way is because the first 4 notes spell a word, and it just makes it easier for us to remember. Bead, B-E-A-D. All you have to remember after that is G, C, and F. For the notes that have accidentals, we're going in the same order, so we still can use the word bead to remember it, but it's just that all the notes are flat. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and our final note will be G flat. So bead, G, C, F, and then bead, G, but they're all flat. Let me give you an example. We will apply this technique to each of the 6 strings, but we're going to start on the E string with our note B. E, A, D, G, C, F. B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, and G flat. What's nice about this technique is you have to actually know the note name. You can't use that method I described earlier where you can find the note because you know where you were. You need to actually identify the note name. You can apply this to all 6 strings on the guitar. When you get comfortable with this across all 6 strings, I recommend using a metronome and practicing this exercise to a specific beat. Because if you were trying to get from one chord to a next chord in a song, that's really exactly what you would do. This exercise will really help you to get familiar with the note names on the guitar. And as you move through and you're practicing triads where you need to know where the root, the third, and the fifth are, or if you get into dominant 7 triads and arpeggios and you need to find the flat 7 and so on, this will make it much easier for you to do that.